All right, everyone. Hello. Welcome to this live 10 rules for being claimed. So while I'm setting up and while everybody else is joining me, I feel like I need to play my claimed. For those of you who don't know, I run a podcast. It's called Girl Skills, soon to be renamed to Claimed. I want to, while I set everything up on the mic for this live and for this amazing rule number 9, why 50-50 doesn't work, I'm going to let you listen to the song. All right, hang on a second. Claimed. Hang on, there it is. Okay, ready? All right, this is a good background song for me now to talk about it, right? So let me just hit the record button on this podcast thing. Hang on just a second while I do this, while we wait for everybody else to join. Okay, should be good now. All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the 10 Rules of Being Claimed series. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Anna Rova. I run a powerful group coaching program for single successful women where I help them attract committed masculine men. I also run my own podcast called Girl Skills, soon to be renamed into Claimed, which you just heard the Claimed theme song of the podcast. And if you are listening to the podcast, by the way, note that I'm also recording this on Igtv, Instagram Live, which is also going to be saved as Instagram in the Instagram TV thing, whatever. So today, we were coming towards the end. Oh my God, I can't believe this is the 9th day or the 9th episode that I'm recording in terms of 10 rules of being claimed. I really recommend that you watch or listen to the previous rules, the previous 8 rules that we talked about of being claimed. And this series is really inspired by, I'm actually sharing all these 10 rules in your, in the program that I work with women with. But I thought that this is such a good packageable way to actually translate this content and share it with the world. And by the way, if you really enjoyed this whole philosophy of the 10 rules of being claimed, and if you want to know more about how you could work with me, for example, or take this further, I have a really powerful training. It's free. It's called How to Attract Your Committed Masculine Men. Go to girlskill.com/webinar and you can sign up for the training where I'll tell you about all the 3, well, not all, but the 3 key shifts that you need to do today in order to be attracting different types of men. So let's talk about rule number 9 of the 10 rules of being claimed. And the 10 rules of being claimed basically are going to help you create that masculine feminine polarity in the relationship, and will help you step more into your femininity so that you get claimed by a man and create a sustainable relationship. And obviously these are just kind of, I don't want to call them surface things, but these are important things to know and remember, kind of like mindset shifting tricks and so on and so forth. But know that the deep work and the work that's actually going to produce all these amazing changes that you want to see is working on yourself as a woman, on your femininity, letting go of control, letting go of beliefs that don't serve you, and really getting in touch with your body, which is what I do with women when I work with them in the program. But anyways, this has been super helpful. I've been receiving a lot of feedback. So just please let me know, how is this content for you, so I know maybe I should, do something else like this or continue or whatever. So, rule number 9 of the 10 rules of being claimed is do not play the 50-50 game, which is an extremely important rule to understand today. And I've actually written an article called Why a 50-50 Relationship Doesn't Work and Won't Make You Happy a guide to a new relationship dynamic that will help us live according to our natures and desires while playing our unique roles. You can find that on my Medium post, or if you Google, actually, if you just Google 50/50 Anna Rova, that will lead you to my post. And also I have recorded a podcast episode on this subject. So if you're listening to the podcast, then you can, or if you want to listen to me talk about this extensively, then go and listen to that. But this is just kind of an overview of what this is about. And actually I'll provide some more examples then in that podcast. So on a basic level, let's talk about three different kind of, I guess, role play or arrangement in a relationship, right? So or three different scenarios, right, on how we can divide the pie of responsibility and showing up and roles in a relationship or managing a household and so on and so forth. So scenario number one is workhorse. Workhorse scenario is when the woman, so it's like 30-70, or you can do it 80-20, whatever you like. So the workhorse scenario means that the woman is the one making the most money. She's the head of the household. She takes charge of everything in the relationship and in life, and the man just follows. So why I call this a workhorse? Because it's truly a workhorse, and that type of a woman most of the time will be burnt out, exhausted, and deeply unhappy by everything. And a lot of women who find themselves in that dynamic, you know, they don't want to live that life. They don't want to live in that dynamic because it's not sustainable for a woman, especially if you have children. But even if you don't, that's just not the route that you want to take. If you want to take that route and it works for you, that's fine. But for majority of women that I talk to and work with, and for me specifically, that doesn't work. And I have been in that dynamic. That dynamic of a workhorse is where the polarity is switched. So where women play the masculine pole and men play the feminine pole. So most women that I talk to, it just doesn't work. It just feels exhausting, burnt out, and it might feel good, like you're in control, but long term, it's not sustainable. So you don't want to be playing that. I hope this is clear, right? Then we get into the second scenario, which is the 50-50 scenario, that you shouldn't play either. And then after that, I'll tell you about the third scenario. That is my recommended scenario, what I practice in my marriage and what I really recommend practicing, in any relationship that you go into with a masculine man. If you are a feminine essence woman and you want your man to lead, you want your man, you want to trust your man and his masculinity so he can hold that container for you and you can just freely flow as a feminine essence being in your feminine power. So the second scenario is the 50-50 scenario. The 50-50 scenario is probably currently the most popular scenario that a lot of couples kind of identify with and adopt in their relationship dynamic. But why it doesn't work is because pretty much when you have a 50-50 scenario, the relationships are depolarized. What this means is that you kind of living with a roommate or a best friend and not with your man or with your woman, and you're not really playing and leveraging your strengths in the relationship or when you manage the household or if you're parents or whatever the roles that you are, that you're choosing to play in a relationship. So, understanding that this 50-50 dynamic, and when I say 50-50, it means that, basically, we divide everything 50-50. We go 50-50 on the household, like income. You bring 50, I bring 50. We split all the bills 50. We, even like how we show up in the household is 50-50. How we care for our children is 50-50. How we do all the other things around the house in the relationship is 50-50. So this doesn't work. And if it doesn't work for you, please comment or message me, DM me on Instagram. Let me know why. A lot of women that I talk to, this doesn't work because it's also, it is sustainable, don't get me wrong, but it's not fulfilling on a deeper level. And we need to understand that equality is not homogeny. Like, my idea of a partnership and the relationship with my man and how we practice that in our marriage, like we have an equal partnership. This conversation is not about equality. Equality is not homogeny. We're equal, but we're very different. The differences between men and women, I mean, I don't know why I'm even talking about this, right? But the difference between men and women, how they show up in the relationship, the physical, emotional, hormonal, which are part of physical, energetic differences, psychological differences are there, and they're very, very clear. They're clear from the research that's been done, on boys and girls since they're 3 years old. The things that we naturally gravitate towards that are masculine things and feminine things are very different. It doesn't mean that women and men don't have both of these energies. They do, but predominantly women identify with the feminine energy more. Women want to feel safe and secure and be held and trust the men to lead in the relationship, and men want the opposite. They want to lead. They want to have that freedom. They want to go forward, push, achieve. And so when we have that polarity in the relationship between men and women, this is what's deeply fulfilling. This is why women are very much attracted to that alpha male guy who's not a douchebag or an asshole, but a proper, healthy, masculine guy. And that's why men are very much attracted to the feminine men, to the feminine women. Of course, there's a healthy feminine woman and unhealthy feminine woman, but creating this beautiful polarity in the relationship and actually playing that role is such a beautiful way to be and live from a place of curiosity towards the other sex, and not playing this equality 50-50 game. That is, I feel like, an outdated already mentality of the feminism. But anyways, I don't want to get into the feminism. The pendulum has swung to the other side, my friends, and we need to change that. Because in the 50-50 relationships, what happens, and it might work for a while, but over time in couples, women and men, they start bickering. Like, I did the laundry, you do the dishes. I mean, or like what I cooked, that was for me in my previous life. I cooked, you do the dishes, or I did this, you do that. I did this, you do that. And so what happens is that a woman normally, because she's a feminine essence being most of the time, she's actually giving and doing a lot more, because her nature is a nurturing nature. Her nature is to create an atmosphere and to create a home in a relationship, what I mean, right? Like, we're not talking about ambition and work and everything. And men do not have that capacity. I mean, they kind of do, but they don't. Like when I ask my men to cook breakfast, like, can you cook some eggs for us? Or would you cook some eggs for us? What would you like for breakfast? Okay, eggs. My man literally cooks 2 eggs, and that's it. And then I sit down and he just cooks, like, here are the 2 eggs. I'm looking at him like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, you asked me to cook eggs. And he's just cooking eggs, Like, that's how the masculine operates. Where when I cook eggs, I'm like, I can't just cook eggs. I don't know what do I add? I add spices and maybe some tomatoes and maybe a piece of cheese, maybe, like, I play with it. I make it pretty. My man can eat chicken every single day for a week. I can't. My man doesn't care whether we wash dirty socks with dirty underwear. He doesn't care. It's laundry. It just gets washed. The job needs to get done. That is the primary focus on the masculine, because he's so much forward oriented, right? The feminine is different. Like, I care about the colors of the draperies in my room, right? I care about the background that's behind me, right? And the atmosphere around it. I care about lighting up candles. I care about not washing socks and underwear together. I care what brand of nappies or diapers my daughter wears. I care what kind of clothes she wears, right? So I care what kind of clothes I wear. So it's different. It is very different. And so when we try to play that 50-50 game, it's almost like we're expecting the men to show up in the same way as we show up for them. To be, to show up 50-50 in parenting, to show up 50-50 in the household, to show up 50-50, well, if that's happening, then of course he has to show up 50-50 in the income bringing. Everything has to show up 50-50. And then you kind of, you almost like keep checks and balances about this, you know, and it's always like you have a little point system in your mind as a woman. Men don't do this very often, but women have this kind of, because obviously we're running multiple lists in our head. I do all the time. Like, I don't even know how I remember to order food delivery and book an appointment for my daughter and schedule my meetings and coach women and order these clothes and change, like, it's just insane. And then when I have my daughter, it's almost like another compartment in my brain has just materialized that is a compartment for just my daughter. And then there's all these tasks that I think about that are there as well. Men do not have that ability to multitask and to kind of compartmentalize and think about 10 different things at once. So that's why 50-50 doesn't work. Because when we try to do everything 50-50 and expect the men to show up in the same way, it doesn't work because of our, again, physiological, psychological, emotional, and energetic differences. Particularly, we're talking about masculine and feminine energy here. So, you know, a lot of the times, women, especially when you become a mother, which I am, your whole world changes. And if these things perhaps don't make a lot of sense to you right now, but I think they do because you're listening to it. But if they don't make sense to you right now, they're definitely going to make sense when you become a mother. Because when you become a mother, you understand the differences between men and women. I mean, we kind of know this on a kind of common sense level. Yeah, of course, like, women are the ones to give birth and carry children, whatever. But whatever, like, yeah, whatever. I'm just doing 50-50. But when you're coming to a place where, for me, it hit me really when I was in my first trimester of pregnancy, where I couldn't work and I couldn't do anything. And all of my feminism slogans were thrown out of the window. All of my independence and strength and certifications and my ability to earn an income, forget it. Because you're lying on the floor, throwing up, because you're in the first trimester. And then depending on how your pregnancy goes, it also, I mean, every woman's different, right? But yeah, 9 months. 9 months of growing a human. And that is the biggest job of all. If women wouldn't be able to do this, well, we don't even need to know how to do this. We just do it. Our body naturally is designed to create life, right? Like, the world would stop. Like, we would all die, right? So nobody, at that moment in time, nobody cares about the job, the career, success, like, you just sit there in your misery, in your creation of a human in the first trimester. Everything became better for me after that, but yeah, and then, so that's it, you know, and then, of course, you give birth, which is a journey in itself. And then you have to nurse the baby, right? I mean, if you choose to breastfeed or not, but everybody knows that breastfeeding is the best. So I breastfed my baby until she was 10 months old. And so, you know, expecting my man to show up 50-50 in parenting in the same way that I do is nonsense. Expecting my man, again, to do laundry, to cook like me, to think like me, to dress like me, to make money like me, is not a great expectations to have, especially in my opinion. This is my personal opinion based on the work I'm doing with women and my experience. So I believe, and my recommendation is to drop the 50-50 and instead embody scenario number 3, which is called freedom and happiness, which everyone wants, right? So that third scenario is called 100-100, where everybody plays their roles properly. The feminine plays the feminine role, and the masculine plays the masculine role. And then we create fulfillment, and then we stop bickering, and we stop fighting. We understand that we're different, and we just embody and embrace our differences, and we celebrate the differences, and we let each other play their own strengths. So some of the things that you can, and what this actually means is that for the woman who identifies as a feminine essence, she really embodies that feminine pole. She listens to herself and to her body. She's really not identifying herself with a constant push, 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 go, go, go. My value comes from my success, or my value comes from the work that I do, or, you know, my value comes from my independence, my strength. And by the way, I talk about all of these in my webinar. They can sign up, girlskill.com/webinar. Go sign up right now. You know, but it comes from her value is in her being, by being who she is, where she doesn't need to prove anything to anyone or prove to him, you know, he will love me. A lot of women actually told me, I've heard this from women saying, when I have the business, I'm going to find great men. When I'm going to be successful at my career, I'm going to find great men. And you know what happens then? They hit 35, 40, they have an amazing career, and the men that they're attracting are either feminine men or a bunch of unemotionally unavailable men. So that your success does not correlate with, or is not directly dependent, or like you attracting the quality man does not directly depend on your success, masculine success in the world. It depends on you knowing yourself, having an amazing life that you love, and being connected to your femininity, working on your beliefs around men and relationships, connecting to your body and understanding the beauty that you bring as a feminine essence woman in your feminine power, who's not trying to be a man, who's not competing with other men whose balls are bigger. That is repulsive to the masculine. And so I'm not saying that you need to be like, women also tell me, I don't want to be this damsel in distress. Well, that's another lie of female success that I talk about in the webinar. Is that femininity is weakness. We need to get this out of our heads, because it's not weakness. I mean, I only see this as power. I love being a woman. I love being in a female body. That's why we conceived the child. Like I couldn't, and perhaps, yeah, obviously, you know, fertility journey and having children is a journey for every single woman, and everybody has a choice in it. But, you know, for me personally, I knew that I can't go through life without getting pregnant and having a child, or at least trying to do so. You know, it's not for every woman, it's not in her cards, but I wanted to experience that. And for me, motherhood is the greatest adventure. I mean, I don't know. She is my sister told me, she's your biggest achievement. I didn't understand that when I gave birth to her, and now I do. Because if I get a call now from daycare, you know, that something's happening, I drop everything. I drop this live and I'm going to say, bye ladies, I gotta go, my child is sick, or something like that, you know. It's the greatest joy and the greatest accomplishment to raise a human and to get pregnant, you know. But then again, we live in a modern world. Of course, as a woman, you want to succeed. And I also have a lot of ambition, a lot of masculine energy. I want to do things in the world. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to create things, right? But it's also about priorities. At the end of the day, you can change your career. You can change your pursuits. You can be whoever you want to be. But you can't change your family or the people that you're closest with. At the end of the day, we all heard that saying about, you know, when you look back at your life, it's the people around you. And so now, when I hear my husband playing with my daughter, when I hear my mother-in-law playing, all of three of them playing, it brings me the biggest joy. And that's what I do because I'm so passionate about bringing this to women, and also to my life. Through the work that I do, I create abundance for myself, I create abundance for my daughter, and I want my daughter to grow up in a world like that, where she doesn't see men as the enemy or masculinity as toxic. So coming back to that, so you understand what I'm saying. So in relationships and in household, my recommendation is actually to play the 100-100 game, where everybody plays the role, like women play their feminine role, because most women identify with a feminine essence. Men play their masculine role, because most men identify with a masculine essence, right? So some of the things that you can do today to start embracing the 100-100, and this is based on my article that I wrote, is, you know, decide what's important. So we've already talked about, you know, the role priority. I can't remember which rule was it, but it's when we talked about choose one role that you would like your partner to play and focus on that role, focus on that dynamic. For us, it's being lovers. So I just focus on that. I don't expect him to be the most amazing father in the world, although I think he is. I don't expect him to be the best husband in the world. Like, this is not a contest, a competition. I'm not giving out badges for it. I'm just focusing on one role, right? Establish where you're going to play the 100 and let him decide and take responsibility for his 100. So I'll talk about this in a second. I have a very practical example and an action step for you of how this works in our marriage and how this actually plays out in terms of areas of responsibility. Make peace with the fact that you can't do it all and overcome this attitude, which is a lie of female success, that as a woman you should and can do it all. Run a successful business, be an amazing mother, a wife, a lover, girlfriend, a daughter, so on and so forth. Like, oh my God, we just need to relax and let go and realize that we can't be perfect, and it's okay. Like, it's fine. Put yourself first. I think this is rule number 2 that we talked about, right? You get the best piece. Set boundaries. Protect your time and your space. This relates to putting yourself first, and I talked about boundaries there, but I have a specific article and an episode, I think, on setting up boundaries with men, to how to communicate, how to proper set them with men. It's a 4-step process. 4 things you can do. I think 4-step process. You connect to your wild woman, discover your femininity, something that we talked about. Step into your feminine power. Learn about polarity dynamics, so learning about that feminine, masculine. And if you read my articles and listen to my podcast, closer and closer you're going to get into that. Let him lead and learn how to trust him. And let him take responsibility. And I think last episode, rule number 8, we talked about this. So let me give you an example of how 100, so instead of 50-50, my recommendation is to look at it 100 plus 100 equals 200. Because then it's not about the division of responsibilities and dividing the pie into half and then sitting there who's doing more than the other, but it's about coming together as 100 and 100 and then coming up with 200, which is much more fulfilling. It creates a lot more space and happiness between two people in a relationship. So how I prefer to think about this is really like areas of responsibility, right? And then acting from this place of area of responsibility. And so it doesn't mean that, for example, in my areas of responsibility, my husband does not contribute, or I do not contribute to his area of responsibility, but it literally means that I am the one responsible for that specific area of the house, of our life, of our relationship, and he is responsible for the other. And again, these are just my examples. You're gonna, every couple is unique and every woman is unique. You're gonna have to figure out what is yours. But to be honest with you, we haven't actually talked about this. So I think a lot of people think that, oh, you need to sit down and actually talk about this, and perhaps you could. But from the beginning, because I was doing this work from the beginning, and sometimes it might take a while for your man to actually get on board with this if he has been used to a 50-50 dynamic, which what my man was before. So, the ultimate question that you can throw out there to your man who is perhaps resisting, and resistance is normal, right? If you've been playing the 50-50 game for like ever, which is so common today, of course he will be resisting, because he's like, well, what do you mean you're not going to bring 50-50 of the income? Or like, what do you mean you're not going to, do, like, it's really hard to get out of the 50-50 into 100-100, not impossible, but just a bit harder, but totally possible. So the ultimate argument that I had, and I remember we were in the car driving, I can't remember where it was, but we were talking about the income, like how much money we're making, how much money we want to make, and so on and so forth. And I wasn't pregnant yet, and we were just discussing, and I just left actually a really well-paid job to find myself or figure out what I want to do next. And here's what I want to do next. I coach women into relationships and femininity. And then so he said, so I left, that income wasn't coming, and he was kind of bringing this up to me. And I was like, I'm like, how many, okay, well, I think we were married already or engaged kind of. I'm like, how many children you want? And then he said, well, I don't know, maybe 3. I was like, all right, well, great. Sounds like a good plan. So, I mean, obviously I'm the one to get pregnant, to give birth and to nurse our babies and take care of them. At least, I mean, he was taking a lot of care of my daughter when she was little, but I'm still the one nursing and doing all of this. So I was like, all right, well, give or take maybe about 3 years per child, you know, where I'm going to have to kind of be there and do it. So pretty much, you know, 10 years of our lives, I'm going to be focusing on being a mother, right? And then he kind of just like looked at me, and he literally had to process that. I think maybe a lot of you have to process that too, because a lot of the women think that, you know, getting pregnant and becoming a mother is just a thing on a to-do list that we can just check and move forward through life, and it will continue the way it has been before. And then we really get disappointed where it's not. It's completely different from the way it was before. First of all, in the first year, you're completely sleepless, and your life completely changes because you're not going to go as fast as you went. You don't have the time. There's other priorities and so on and so forth. So you taking care and raising another human being, that's a job in itself, a 24/7 job. And on top of that, you know, women expect, that's why can and should do it all, expect themselves to behave the same way, to earn the same income, and to like play 50-50. Like, no, this doesn't work. And so what I'm really saying is not like, okay, I don't know, what are you saying? Like, should we be stay-at-home mothers and you go back to the 50s? No. But we also need to learn how to prioritize and how to really understand that we can't play that game. We can't play the woman, or the modern woman who does it all, the superwoman syndrome that we all have. It's not sustainable, you know, when they're pushing you out after, I don't know, 3 weeks of giving birth into work. All right, I get very passionate about this, so I can talk about this forever, but we got to wrap up here. I can be like going about this forever. So the solution is to actually play the 100 plus 100 equals 200 game. It is kind of a game, more of like role playing, and play that feminine masculine pole, because it's going to be so much more fulfilling for you as a woman. So let me tell you quickly about my areas of responsibility. And we kind of just fell into that. Oh, that's why I'm just telling you that story, that from the beginning, I knew what I wanted as a woman. And I talk about in my podcast and in the program, you set the standard for men. You set the standard of how you want to be treated. If you want to be a workhorse and work 24/7, like, that's fine. Like, you know, if you want that, and that works for you, no judgment. But for most women, it doesn't. And so if you set this up from the get-go, from the beginning, knowing that you don't have to play the workhorse, that you don't have to compete with men, then you allow men to come up to you and stand strongly into in their masculinity. And so my area of responsibility, which is, we haven't even talked about it, it just kind of happened because I knew what he thinks has kind of happened, but I know what I want, and I play, like, I'm very much in tune with who I am as a woman. So, you know, our daughter's care organization development stages, and I'm constantly reading Montessori books, and, you know, what is the next thing? What is the toilet training? What are the clothes that we need to buy? I don't know, nappies and wet wipes. And oh my God, the first year after I gave birth, it was insane. Like, my mind was literally always focused on why is she not sleeping, why is she not eating, like, so much. It doesn't mean that he doesn't think about it, right? He definitely helps with it a lot. Like, he loves her to death, more than me, I think. But that's my area of responsibility, and I'm really keen and prone to that. And I asked him, why don't you read parenting books? And he's like looking at me, he's like, I'm not interested in parenting books. You're telling me everything I need to know about parenting. I'm like, all right, makes sense. You know, the other area of my responsibility is meals and food planning and groceries. Not because I have to do it, but because I know that I want to do it in my way, because I don't want to eat chicken every single day for a week. Or I don't want to have 2 eggs fried for breakfast every day. All right, I like variety. Especially since I have like gluten-free and diet, like, it's crazy. I like to bake things, and I like to do these like protein bliss bowls and things like that, and I need to buy ingredients for it, and it's how I express myself and my creativity comes out. So I organize that and I think about that stuff, like household organization as well as another area, like cleaning, laundry, shopping. I organize a cleaner, I organize online shopping, like all of these things. It doesn't mean he doesn't do it again, but it means that that's my area of responsibility. Like, running small errands during the day, I don't know, maybe calling someone, organizing something when I can, things like that. And like small family events and gatherings. And I actually do, I do a lot of like small planning and, maybe seeing some friends or play groups or whatever. So these are kind of my areas of responsibility. And of course, I didn't add here, but I think the aesthetic of the home and the candles and the atmosphere and things like that, I think are also on me. I recently actually bought 2 paintings for my daughter, and I put them at her level, Montessori, practicing Montessori. So these are the things like plants right around the house. So these are things that my man doesn't think about. Now let's talk about his areas of responsibility. So he's responsible for the financial planning and stability of our family. Big family events and gatherings. Again, it doesn't mean that I don't contribute. In fact, the financial planning and stability, I contribute a lot to that with the business that I'm running and with my coaching practice, but we do it together. Well, it's a separate thing where we're business partners, but still, I think for a lot of women, even who bring the income and everything, if you want to play that role, and a lot of men are happy to play that role, it doesn't mean that every man will be the best at playing that role, but for me personally, it provides that stability and security, and so many women want that. They want to feel like, I don't need to think about it. I have all the other things that I need to think about. You think about it. So another thing is dirty work around the house. So like he's taking out the rubbish, he's killing all the spiders and cockroaches and everything else that's like yucky for me. I don't need to be dealing with that. Doing the heavy lifting and all the manly work around the house. I'm not changing light bulbs, and I'm not like putting nails in whatever. Like, if a car breaks down, that's his responsibility. I can go and like take the car to the repair shop or whatever, which I've done many times, but I'm clueless how to do that. And then running big errands and things like that. So, what I'm saying is that, how shall I put this? What I'm saying is that, it doesn't mean that I can't do it. But it doesn't mean I can do it, but I don't want to. Because I have all the other stuff that I'm doing. And that's why you can see where the conflict begins. The conflict begins when we're trying to do everything 50-50. But I feel like because when we play our natural essences and our natural roles, things are set into their own places. Everybody knows what they're doing. It's like a job, division of labor, right? You gotta hire people for the right jobs. And because if you hire for the wrong jobs, or let's say there's 2 distinct jobs, one of them is like, I don't know, social media manager, the other one is like customer support. So imagine if that's what 50-50 is that these 2 people who could be playing customer support, social media manager, excuse me, you blend them in and be like, John, you are now doing half customer support, half social media, and Julie, you're going to do half customer support, half social media. And that's how we're going to run our company. Do you see how this doesn't make any sense? It's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Wouldn't you divide the labor so that John, who has expertise and is very much aligned with his social media energy, and this is what naturally he's inclined to do, would just do the social media role, and then Julie, I think it was the other way around, can't remember, and some people might say, oh, you've put John on social media and Julie on customer support, there's a pay gap there. Oh my god, face palm. Things could be taken so much out of context, but anyways, so and Julie, like let's say if Julie, or switch them around, doesn't matter, let's say Julie has experience in customer support, she's really good at it energetically, physically, hormonally, and so on and so forth, then Julie should do it full time. So I I hope this really helps. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. If you did, please let me know. And the action step for you that I'm going to leave you with today is, how can you stop playing the 50-50 game? First of all, how are you playing right now, the 50-50 game? And then how can you stop playing that? And I gave you already some examples and some specific strategies and things that you can do. All right. Okay. Well, this is it for rule number 9. Rule number 10, one of my favorite rules that is kind of going to sum up everything, is happy wife, happy life. Very simple rule, but something that a lot of us disregard. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. So I have just stopped my recording. Any questions that you have, I'd be happy to answer. How can you find your IGTV? So Julia, I think that's your name. So if you go to my profile, like my normal profile, there's 3 different tabs there. One of them looks like kind of like a grid. These are all my posts, and you have the same thing. The second tab in the middle is IGTV, and it has this link of IGTV. It's like a square with a little, I think, arrow or something like that. If you click on that, you will go to that. So it's all within the Instagram platform. And also, you know, on my profile, you'll see different snippets of my IGTVs, and then you can click on them and go to that specific episode. And I think the third tab is like things that other people have tagged you or something like that. So I hope this explains it. If not, just DM me and I'll screenshot it for you and show you where it is. All right, any other questions? I'll give you about 30 seconds for everybody who's here to ask questions or comment, or I'm curious what you think about all of that 50-50. And if you're playing any of the 50-50 game and how you plan to. Does that apply in the dating level? Yeah, that's a good question. I think, you know what, I think it does apply. Like if you listen to the 10 rules, the first rule, it's all, I think, we still play the feminine masculine dynamic energy. So I don't know, what is your specific question in terms of in the dating level? Do you mean, like, what do you mean by that exactly? If you could clarify, that would be great. But in general, I think in any dynamic with a man, when there is polarity between a man and a woman, or, you know, even that relates to even same-sex couples or whatever, because polarity is there. I think that 50-50 game, playing the 50-50 game, even in dating, is not ideal. Well, let's even talk about the first date and who's paying for the date. I mean, this is such a complicated subject. I don't want to get into that, like, who's paying? Because obviously, like, my things are only my recommendations. And as a coach, it is my job when we work together, when I work with women, is to guide them into finding their own answer. With your man, who's exerting effort more? Yeah, so if, you know, like, when you're splitting the bill on the first date, it's a depolarized relationship. It's a depolarized meeting. It's a business meeting, right? So I'm of the idea that it would be nice if a man would pay for our dates, because he's the one inviting me, if you're following that principle. So you can see that where it's 100 and 100, right? He would take up the bill, because as a feminine essence woman, I've kind of prepared. He puts the container out there, and the woman comes and fills that container. So in terms of, so the question is, who's exerting effort more? So I don't think it's a good idea. I don't want to talk about this in terms of who's exerting effort more, because I think that if a woman is leaning back and allowing him to lead, it doesn't mean she's not putting any effort, right? So I put a lot of effort into myself. I mean, I'm married, but, you know, when you go out there and, like, you're a woman and you focus on yourself, you're putting a lot of effort into, first of all, looking good, right? You're putting a lot of effort into working on your feminine energy and just being in your body and being an amazing companion for that particular man, right? It's not for the man. It's for being you, who you are, and in your body. But when we talk about effort, who's putting effort more? Again, how can you play the 100 and 100, right? How can you play that particular role that you were designed to play in your feminine essence, in your body, and so on and so forth? So again, your question particularly, like who's putting effort more, we're playing the 50-50 game. It's like, are you putting more effort into this? Yeah, you're gonna pay because I put effort into my hair, That's still, it's a push and pull. That shouldn't be happening. I had once like a full-on debate on Medium with this man who's like, I'm not paying for women on dinner for dinner or for dates because women are now earning so much more and whatever. I'm like, whatever. Like, okay, fine, go and do your thing. Don't pay for women. Like, I'm not arguing about this. I don't have the time and the energy. So if you find yourself thinking about this or discussing this even with a man, like, I put a lot of effort into it. Well, like that, I would look at that. Why is that conversation happening? Why is that bickering happening? Because technically it shouldn't. When you set up your own boundaries, you put yourself first. There's no question of who's putting effort more. Because I believe that when a woman is leaning back and letting him come and claim her, or she's going through the whole dating funnel and letting men lead, when she's in her feminine energy, that's a lot of effort. Especially if you've been playing in your masculine a lot. Do you know how much time and effort it takes women to actually not control things? To actually let things flow and let the men decide and trust him? Like women that I work with in my program, they're putting a lot of effort into this. They're putting a lot of money into this. They're putting a lot of time and energy into this, So I don't know what you mean by effort. I mean, I kind of understand what you're saying, but it really depends on how you describe effort. And effort in general is a very masculine, way to describe doing. Like effort is like do. Well, by being me, well, technically it's effortless, but things should be effortless. Like for a man to pursue a woman, for him, this is the greatest gift that you can give to a man because it's effortless for him. Like if you allow him to, he's not like, oh my God, calling Julie is such a big effort. Like, let me just drag myself to the phone and call Julie and ask her out because it's so much fucking effort. Oh my God. I don't want to be with a man like that if it takes me so much effort, And he also doesn't want to be with a woman who drags herself to the freaking restaurant, sits down, like so much, Effort is heavy. How can we get rid of the effort and be in the flow, be in the ease of it? Be with a man on a date. That's freaking exciting. Like, I'm excited to get to know you. Like, that's what it's all about. When I met my husband, I was that, and I hope I'm still that. And I know he loves me for it. He still grabs me by the ass and tells me I'm his girl. I love it. There's no effort on my side. It's just me. And so when I'm connected to my own body and my femininity, there's no effort. If you really think about that, of course there's effort in like, I gotta, shave my legs and do my hair and put on mascara and whatever. And he's gotta like also prepare and pursue me and everything. Like, do you know what I mean? So I think it depends on the attitude and your curiosity and your willingness to be open and, attract the men that you want to attract. So I hope this is helpful and I hope this is explained a lot. I think I've been here for 45 minutes. That's crazy. I could be here forever. But no, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Let me know if you have any other questions, by the way. And a lot of this stuff I explained on the webinar. So 8, and that's girlskill.com/webinar. Go sign up. And it will also give you details about how we could work together better. What are the next steps that you need to do if you're interested. But tomorrow I talk about rule number 10. Happy wife, happy life. And Friday, so tomorrow is Thursday for you guys, and then Friday night the last episode, which is going to be bonus rule number 11, practice the essential forgotten skill embodiment and why it's important for women. And I think I'm going to do that same day another one real quick, just summarizing all the rules and telling you the next step. All right, thanks so much. Thanks everyone, I really appreciate it. Bye.